He has worked with organizations like Unite 2030, a youth-led US-based not-for-profit organization supporting a global community of over 30,000 to achieve the SDGs. Green Hub Africa Foundation, the Leadership Development Institute of Al Aquain University in Ifrin, Morocco, and ISEC, where he led the design and implementation of youth-led SDG projects. So between 2023 and 2025, Tony also served as a member of the National Youth Steering Committee for Nigeria's national climate policies, set up by the World Resources Institute and Green Hub Africa Foundation, where he conducted policy research and designed youth-centered climate engagement programs impacting over 4,000 youths in Nigeria through capacity building and grant support. An awardee of the 2023 Top 100 Changemakers Award in Plateau State, Nigeria. He's an alumnus of the Common Purpose Global Leadership Experience, the One Campaign Champions Program, and the Nairobi Summer School on climate justice. Throughout his career, Tony has been at the forefront of volunteer mobilization and advocacy efforts using digital innovation to address critical global issues like extreme poverty, preventable diseases, inequalities, and climate change, making an impact in Africa, Europe, and the United States. And I would, sorry, just. So please, you can use the reaction platform to, join us in welcoming Tony while I hand over to Tony to take over. And for those just joining, we are just doing a brief exercise. Kindly share one good thing that happened to you within the week and one not so good thing that happened to you within the week. And if you have expectations for this, please also put them in the chat. And yeah, it's so great to have Tony here. Tony is a colleague and such an amazing young person. And I just hope that, we sort of like gain from his wealth of knowledge and experience as well. Over to you, Tony.
Thank you, Molly. Can you all confirm that you can hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay, great. I'm not sure if it's standard procedure that everyone's camera is off. I mean, given we're just a few in the house, are we comfortable with turning on our cameras just so that I know I can put faces to names at least? I will also do the same. Also, can we see my screen? Can everyone see my screen as well? Okay, great. I'm still the only person turning on my camera. Anyways, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope your week has been good. It's a pleasure and I'm excited to be joining you this evening. I am only here for just one mission only, and my task today is to share with you tips, practical tips that I think are going to be useful to you as volunteers with the White Project, particularly so that you are able to um, achieve your goals that you have set for yourselves as volunteers, and then ultimately make the impact that you strive to make as volunteers with the White Project. My name is Tony Silas, and it would be nice to get to know all of you during the course of this presentation. So at any point in time, if you have a comment, a question, you may feel free to indicate. Although at the end of the presentation, there will be sort of space for questions and a little bit of interaction. But at the same time, I will also try to take notes of the chats. Should anyone have maybe pressing comments, I'm sure we will be able to accommodate them. Um, so moving forward, um, yes, so like I said, really the objective of this session today is to ensure that everyone here feels confident in their readiness to take the best of the opportunity that they've had as volunteers with the White Project. Um, also find some helpful insights from the presentation moving forward. There will be two major components of what I'll be doing later on today. One of the components will be focused on you as volunteers, and then the other component will really be focused on the organization that you're volunteering with, and I would explain why this is very important for you to keep in mind. And also, gladly, Molly's here, so I'm sure she would find some of the things that will be said helpful. Moving forward, before we start, I would just like to randomly get your thoughts on a question that I think should usher us into the presentation today, and which is for those of you that have, been maybe have a couple of volunteer experience, I really like to know, aside from money, finance, what other issues do you really think that, are pretty much pressing issues for volunteers as they engage with organizations or businesses? I would really like if you would unmute and speak. You will just say your name and then maybe share a challenge that you think is one of the biggest. Anybody? Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can from my end at least.
Okay.
If it's fine, do you want me to go?
Yeah, sure. You can.
Okay,
And
I'll
then you
say
nominate the next person to go.
sure. So one of the biggest challenges, okay, aside from finance, I would say is it's regard to like skill sets, right? Understanding where and when your skills are being needed, and where to sort of like also channel your efforts or channel your commitment towards a particular cause. And in most cases, some people do not have an understanding of where they think they would actually fit in if this aligns with their morals, if it aligns with their values, or if it aligns with the passion that they are pursuing. I
Yeah.
will nominate, let's see, Elizabeth. Yeah. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Hi, Molly. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
My network is quite bad. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So, I do not really have much experience with volunteering because I'm trying to um be more activity this year. This will be like my first active, you this is my first time basically, but I know that I have done a little bit of volunteering with a particular, I won't say an NGO, but some people needed to do something for um, children who live on the streets. And I just said I wanted to be a part of it. I really hope that you can hear me, but I don't know if this is a challenge, but I'm just going to say it. It was difficult for me to I felt like we needed to do more because it seemed like when we went to visit those particular children, we went there with food, went there with, words of mouth, hope, and everything. It just felt like these people needed more than what we were offering at the time. So I really don't know if this is a challenge, but I know that that stuck with me because I didn't feel really satisfied after going to engage with those people. So I think it was a challenge for me understanding what their needs were at that moment and at that moment and then how I could help with that. I really don't know if this is the challenge, but yeah, that's my take on this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. You nominate one more person and then we proceed.
Okay. I'll nominate Lucy.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Lucy.
Okay. I don't know. One of the biggest challenges I feel as a volunteer is whether or not though like people you're trying to teach will be willing to listen to you. I think that's like one of the biggest challenges because I volunteered teaching for a group of like teaching a group of students, and one thing I was skeptical on was whether or not they were willing to listen to what I was going to say to them. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges on my own end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm sure we would still have time, maybe towards the end, to sort of um, digest some of these issues that you've raised. But yeah, the reality of it is that volunteering, even though it is a noble activity, endeavor to engage in, it is not without its challenges. And oftentimes, these challenges sort of affect um, how a volunteer at the end of the day, um, how much they feel either satisfied, just like one of you pointed out, with the work that they've done, or they feel like, are they even making the impact that they want to make, which was sort of the motivation to go into this venture in the first place. And really, the truth is, people say, well, um, a lot of the times when people say they want to volunteer, it boils from the fact that either they've observed some issues that they're deeply passionate about and they want to resolve. But in reality, it's this passion that drives us is often not enough to sustain us. And I say us because myself, I have been actively volunteering officially since 2014. So, and I know how difficult it can be sometimes. And this is because in between the point where you say, oh, this is what I want to do, and this is the impact I want to make, a lot of things happen in between those two events that sort of influence how much of your commitment you have within the organization that you're volunteering with, or if it's a personal project. And it is important that as volunteers, even with the wide project, that you are sort of prepared and ready and have some tools within your disposal that would help you overcome some of these issues that are actually preventable. A lot of them are actually preventable, and we'll get to see how that plays out. For instance, what we've also noticed within the volunteering space is that a lot of volunteers who come in at the start of the project, towards the end, they drop out significantly amounts. Some would say 50%, some would say 60%. But if you ask me, that's a significant amount of volunteers that are not staying till the end of the project. And some of these reasons revolve around either skills mismatch or not even understanding what they're supposed to do. Some instances where volunteers come into a project, into an organization, and there's really no clear um, there's really no clear job description for you. Sometimes they tell you, oh, come and join us, but no one tells you exactly what to do or even what your contribution is within the organization. How do you really know that the work you're doing is really meaningful in the first place? And so with all of these challenges that happen, what really can you do as a volunteer? How can you prepare? And this is the first part of our conversation today. Yes, these issues are very important because, again, it leads to stress when volunteers are confused, when they are not equipped enough, when the the environment that they're working in is not conducive enough for them to make the level of impact that they want to make. It leads to all manner of issues, from stress to reduced motivation, to mental health issues. You guys work within the mental health space, and you understand how burnout could occur when you're working so much, yet you do not feel fulfillment from what you're doing. And ultimately, it leads to the disengagement of volunteers. But good news, there are a couple of things you can do. I have here a few tips that I would like to share with you, and I'll explain each and every one of them carefully so you understand what they mean and how you can take advantage of them. Oftentimes, we are asked, why are you interested in volunteering? And people give you one reason. And the fundamental reason almost everybody give is, oh, they are passionate about this issue and they want to contribute to addressing the issue. And so it means a lot to them, and hence they want to be part of the movement. But I would say, from personal experience and also what I've observed managing volunteers myself, is you need at least two strong whys as to why you are volunteering in any project. One of these why needs to be a selfless why. So this could be maybe from your experience generally, or maybe a personal experience from, about an issue. And this is very common for people to have. But the second why I like to term as a very selfish why. So yes, you do need a selfish why as to your motivation to join a certain cause. A selfish why is, I'm not saying have a reason to discard, the fundamentals and the values that form the concept of volunteering, but have a why that you look forward to. For instance, if you are volunteering within the, mental health space because you really care about how it affects people, a selfish why could also be that you desire to have a career as a mental health professional at some point. So that is something that you would like to take out of your volunteering experience. So that is what I call a selfish why. A selfish why would be something that allows you to develop competencies either in your career, or maybe you want exposure within a certain field, or maybe you want to become a leading voice within a certain field. So it's always good to have that selfless why and also a selfish why. The truth is, in the long run, there will be moments where your selfless why will be questioned. For instance, the example you gave about not being sure if the students want to listen to you. And so you're questioning, oh, am I even really making an impact? Should I even stop? But at the same time, while you're doing it, you are probably developing your speaking skills. There will be moments, maybe for instance, people are not appreciative of your work, and so it brings doubt and questions your selfless why. So there will be moments where you would need to complement your drive with your other why, and this is why it's important to have two whys. And again, just to re-emphasize, do not see it as an excuse to ditch your selfless why. Otherwise, you wouldn't be volunteering, because the idea is to be selfless. Another thing you can do as a volunteer to help you sustain your engagement and really continue with the work that you're doing is to avoid the situation where you find yourself asking, what am I doing in this space? I've seen organizations that call for volunteers. They'll put up an application, oh, we're looking for volunteers, join us. But some of these organizations really do not have an idea of why exactly they need the volunteers. And so as a volunteer, you should, as you're picking up these opportunities, ask the organization or whoever is responsible, give me a job description. Give me a list of items that I can work towards and I can measure for myself as indicators for success. Tell me how my contribution as a volunteer contributes to this mission, and be specific as much as you can. The moment you are unclear, unsure on what you're supposed to be doing, you are already, building the foundation for a boring work or work that is not satisfying, and all of those things that could be prevented. So you want to make sure you have that. Another thing you can do as a volunteer is to ensure that you have personal goals for yourself. It could be a list of skills that you'd want to develop while you're volunteering. It could be a list of tools that you would want to get familiar with. Maybe as a designer or graphic designer, there are certain tools you want to migrate from Canva to Illustrator or whatever tools are there. Make sure you have these goals that you can track and measure for yourself. It keeps you on track and it keeps you motivated, especially while you're working towards them. And it improves your overall well-being, your mental health, your energy, your enthusiasm about the work that you're doing. Another thing that I've also seen in the world of volunteering is the loneliness that comes from it. Sometimes people get buried in this impactful work that they do, that they do not have an active social life. They are sort of not in good touch with either family or friends. And so what you really want to do is you want to build a community, a close community, even from the work that you're doing, especially when it is becoming very taxing and affecting your overall well-being. One recommendation that I always suggest is if you are volunteering for a cause, try as much as you can to take your friend along with you, someone who's already your friend, with you to volunteer for the same cause. That way you're going into the volunteering environment with somebody who is close enough to share personal issues or even work issues, just so that you do not feel like your social life is dying. It helps a lot to um, keep the momentum going and taking you, a step further from what your intentions were at the time when you were trying to volunteer to really sustaining that passion to making the impact that you want to make. It is really helpful. I mean, this is very common. A lot of people document their wins while they're volunteering. In fact, volunteering is beginning to look like a cool thing to do now, especially amongst young people. But the reason why documenting your wins is also a helpful practical tool to keep your momentum going is not so you show off. It's so that you would have these meaningful moments recorded somewhere, and in moments where you feel down or you doubt yourself, you can look back at those documented moments and be encouraged, be refreshed, and be motivated again to continue the work that you're doing and drive that passion that you want to drive. Again, do not forget to take breaks. There are people who are workaholics. Some people work weekends all day. I understand that we live in a really challenging economy that requires you to do something extra just to survive. But to be honest, it is only someone who is alive that will enjoy whatever outcome of those work is. So you need to take care of yourself, take breaks. It really helps. It revitalizes your energy. It refreshes your brain when you're stressed out. Overall, it improves your productivity at work. So do not forget to take breaks, even as volunteers. This is something very important. I remember when I started volunteering and I would pay money from my pocket to travel, and some of my family members could not really understand what I meant by I was volunteering for an organization, yet I was paying transportation for conferences and all of that from my own personal pockets, yet I was volunteering for someone. Um, it is a reality that while you're volunteering, in some cases, you may have to cover some financial responsibilities for yourself, especially if you're working with an organization that is not very well funded. So you find yourself, paying stuff from your own pockets and sacrificing your own finance, just so that you do not get to a point where you feel like you are being, it gets overwhelming. Try to have a plan for your finances. For some people, they do like extra gig on the side just so that they can be able to still meet up with some of these financial demands that comes with volunteering. But it is also essential that you plan for your financial needs as well as a volunteer. Well, these tips that I've just shared with you cover a wide range of challenges that occur during your volunteering experiences. Also taking it back to maybe the challenge that Molly shared, people not being able to navigate and align their skills with the job. Oftentimes, this occurs when an individual does not have a clear direction as to where they want to go in life, and they do not probably have a personal why. So they just want to change the world, but there's no personal selfish why. So oftentimes it leads to confusion, but if someone has a sufficient why as to why they're doing something, then they can begin to reflect on, oh, what does this skill require for this career path? What do I have to do? And then from there, with a clear job description, tasks can be given that aligns with the opportunity to develop certain competencies or opportunities to apply already existing skills. Now, being able to consistently engage as a volunteer, being able to consistently be motivated and enthusiastic about the work that you're doing is a two-way street. It requires you as a volunteer to take certain steps, and it also requires your organization with which you are volunteering with to provide and facilitate certain environments for you. As volunteers, it is important that you know what is expected from your organization for two major reasons. One, that you are able to sort of hold your organization to account because they also have a responsibility of providing these environments for you where you're being the best version of yourself, your energy is not drained unsustainably, you are constantly motivated, and you're making the impact that you want to make. And so you are able to keep in mind and know when to ask questions or raise concerns when certain things are not being provided for you. But also as a volunteer, it is important for you to know some of these things so you know what is a red flag or a green flag regarding an organization that you're volunteering for. Unfortunately, there are organizations that just want to take advantage of young people without providing supportive environment for them to develop or for them to make the impact that they want to make. So there are a couple of things that I have put together that your organization can do and you can expect from them to have a pretty much good experience as a volunteer. One, expect, or you should expect, and I would say the organization is expected to provide a tailored volunteering experience for you. And what that means is your job description, the tasks that you're being assigned to, and everything that you're going to be working on within your volunteer experience should be tailored to your interest and your motivation. The idea of motivational letter and applications shouldn't just be for the sake of recruitment. It should be what should feed and guide the management of your volunteers within your organization. Say, for instance, someone is really interested in the design of flyers. They want to explore their creative side. They have those skills, but then you give them a job description that requires them to do sales and go and be speaking to people. You see that now there is a mismatch. And so when this happens, you just know, oh, this is a red flag. If you can raise it up with the organization and say, oh, the reason why you're volunteering is because you have these specific goals, these specific parts, and you expect that your experience here should be tailored to that. So it's important for your organization to do that. And if you're not doing that, you can always ask questions or take it as a red flag. Another thing your organization can do to ensure that you're consistently motivated and you're working, you're productive, you're being the best version of yourself and making your impact is that there needs to be a clear structure of how you're going to work within the organization. So when you're asking for a job description, it needs to reflect for sure what team you are working with, who you are synergizing with, who you are reporting to, who is reporting to you, and so that you know for sure where you fit in your contribution to achieving the overall mission. And this is also one way that it can facilitate your continuous momentum and motivation and passion for doing the work that you want to do. Feedback is also very important. As a volunteer, you need an environment where you can provide and receive feedback with regards to the work that you're doing and how things generally work within the organization where you're volunteering. This is central to your motivation. Imagine working and no one is telling you, oh, you're making progress, or you're not making progress, especially if you're someone who, have those self-motivation goals that you want to achieve, and you've communicated that maybe with a supervisor or someone with your team, yet no follow-up, no feedback is being provided. That affects your morale as a volunteer. It affects, how you feel you're contributing generally, and your growth, your personal growth. Volunteers also should be involved in decision making. They are a core component of the organization. If you find yourself in an organization where decisions are being made and just handed to you because you're a volunteer, you're not a paid staff, or you're not a permanent staff, that should give a red flag. You should be consulted as an important stakeholder in the organization, and so that you feel a part of the team. That helps with sustaining your energy, your motivation, and ultimately the impact that you make as a volunteer. Well, volunteering, they say, is an unpaid work. Yes, true, but there are several ways that organizations have consistently ensured that there are incentives, okay, to volunteer. Rewards and recognition activities should happen within the organization. If your volunteers are doing very well, you should recognize that. Should it be within your means, reward it with some incentive at some point. This recognition could be in private when you're having your feedback moments, or they could be public within your team meetings. But reward and recognition is very important to volunteers, especially when they're not being paid financially for the work that they do. And so these are some of the things that you should expect from your organization as you offer, your volunteer services through that platform. And then as you continue to sustain your engagement throughout the project that you're part of. Again, just to wrap this all up, is that for you to be able to move from your intention to make impact as a volunteer and the actual impact that you eventually make at the end of the day, you require a sort of synergy between yourself and your organization. You need to be conscious about your learning. You need to be conscious and aware of when you are stressed, when you feel like you are being drained, taking care of yourself. You need to be conscious about the work you're doing, ensuring that you're able to track progress and be aware of your contribution to the organization. And then also be able to remind your organization of certain things that are expected for them to provide to you to facilitate a very transformational experience as a volunteer. This is very important. That being said, this is the end of the presentation, and I am open to taking questions or thoughts that came across your mind while I was speaking, or maybe I said something that you wanted to add from your own personal experience so others could learn. Feel free to indicate or open up your mic, and we can have maybe a 15 minutes or 10 minutes conversation, and we call it a wrap. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony. This was, I think I even learned from this myself. It was really insightful. Thank you so much for sharing some of those very important things that we also need to reflect on. And please, I'm not seeing you guys giving an upload or a heart emoji. Maybe is it that we didn't appreciate what was shared? Yeah, please just thank you. Thank you. And also, if you have your questions, if you're able to speak, please do unmute and you can speak. Or if you prefer to put them in the chat, that's also fine. And I think Tony has really done a great job in helping us, sort of like reflect on what we really want to get out of this engagement, because it's not just enough to, gallivant and be here, be there all around, but, at the end of the day, having really nothing to show for that, or you were a part of this team, or you were a part of this. So intentional volunteering is what everyone should be on the lookout for. How can I contribute? How can I make my efforts known? What contributions can I make that will also be valuable to me as an individual in my professional development and what I want to achieve at the end of the day. And I think those are really 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 great important pieces to deeply reflect on and think about. Yeah. So just leave 2 minutes. Do we have any question, anyone? Aha. When there's no question, it's either of two things. It's either
Exactly.
either the presenter did a really great job or
We did a very terrible job.
exactly. So you guys are only insinuating one of those and only one way to find out. Okay, if you don't have questions, maybe you could share your reflection. Yes, you can share one or two things
Yes.
you got out
Let's
of
take
it.
reflections.
Yeah. Questions or reflections.
I think you can nominate someone, Molly, and then the person nominates the next person to go.
Okay, I just didn't want to put anyone on the spot, but oh my God, you guys are running away. Okay, Blessing Oluwalusi. You can share either a question or a reflection for you. Over to you, Blessing. Can you hear me? Hello, Blessing. Can you hear us?
Blessing's mic is muted. I
Okay,
think Lucy
Lucy.
is up.
Yeah, you can go, Lucy.
Okay, hi, good evening. I don't have a question, but my reflection based on the part where he said, times where we go for volunteering work, there are times when he had to use from his own pocket for the volunteering work. And I'm like, Jesus. There are times we actually have to do that because it's not only we can't only do the volunteering work like in just our states, like in Abuja. There are times where, from my own thinking, I think we have to go to like other states to like do the teaching or to um share our knowledge on mental health to other people in other states. So there are times where, okay, we actually have to, in our budget for the month, we have to put, okay, yes, this particular amount of money will be for volunteering work or will be for transport or will be for contributions, that kind of thing. So that part really struck me and I'm like, okay, I have to add this to my own savings now. Like if I'm saving, I should put this particular money to be saved for this particular thing, like volunteering for this particular thing. So yeah, that's my own reflection. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy, for sharing and for holding on to that part. Yeah. Lucy, can you nominate someone to go after you?
Okay. I nominate Ignatius.
Okay.
I don't know if Ignatius can hear me.
IG, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Tony. Good evening, Molly. Good evening, everyone. I don't have a question, but I just have some words of. I just want to appreciate Mr. Tony. For a while, some of us have been volunteering. But we've not really had this, this opportunity of, someone talking to us on it and, exposing some of the things we have already been seeing. These are some of the things we have experienced, but having someone, talk to you about it and telling you that these things are normal things you experience and you should experience during the process, kind of gives us more motivation to keep pushing further. So I just want to appreciate Mr. Tony for this section. Since I'm really inspired. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ignatius. You can nominate someone else to share their reflection or question.
So I will nominate Miss Itu Robasi. Miss Itu Robasi.
Ito, can you hear us or are you able to speak? I know she's in a space where she might be unable to. If you're able to speak, or if you're unable to speak, rather, you can give me a thumbs down. And if you can speak, you can just go ahead. Itoro, can you hear us or me? Can you give me a thumbs down if you're able to speak? Sorry, if you're unable to speak, I mean.
Not sure
How
she
about
can hear us.
Blessing? Yeah. Blessing, are you back?
Blessing, are you there? Can you hear us? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess for me, thank you again for the invitation to share with you guys today. I will just hand over now to Molly, and I wish you all the best in your volunteer journey. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Tony. And we really, appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you're a busy man, so taking out time to, just come speak to us about this is really valuable, and we deeply appreciate you for that. And I believe going forward, the few persons who have heard will, put some of these things into practice in their engagement. And going forward, good thing we have the recording available so people can access it whenever they want to. And in our future or subsequent engagement, we understand that. I think even before now, we had requested that people let us know their areas of interest, that they would like to participate or volunteer on, on the project. And I think that's an important facet that, if after this session, maybe one or two things have changed and you said, oh, I don't want to do this any longer, you can, sort of like still let us know, and then we know how to move things forward. from there. But if you also haven't shared with us the areas you're interested in, you can do that now. I think we asked for the top 3 areas, you know, in order of hierarchy, right? The first being able where you want to fully support in, and the other two being areas where you can, come in on 1 or 2 occasions. So those are our requests at this point. If you haven't, please feel free to do so on the group, and we can move things forward. And tomorrow there's a big announcement actually, and it will come on the group. And really excited for how things are, unfolding in this second quarter, and really looking forward to working with each of you and everyone, and see what we can achieve together as we build and grow together. So thank you guys for this evening. Tomorrow we take the last session of mental health communications and advocacy. It would be a really important aspect in our journey to know how to engage in practice, what we are advocating for, what context or language to use, in the mental health space to destigmatize the mental health space, since it's sort of like a sensitive field. And I think these conversations are sort of relevant, right? So please, tomorrow, same time, do well to be here as well. And please, for the last time, an emoji for Tony. And in our work, we hope to also engage with Tony, as his schedule may permit, right? So thank you very much, Tony, once again. Really appreciate your time. And thank you, everyone. So we'll be logging off, and recording will also be on our YouTube page, right? So if you need reflections, you can get to our YouTube page and have this. All right, thank you, everyone, and do enjoy the rest of your evening, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Molly.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.